Hey guys, I went to New York City recently and it was weird. A few years ago I swore on my life that I would never go back to New York City ever again. I had gone 2 times before and they were both awful. Like, awful. Just to give you some context, one of those trips was to Times Square on New Year's Eve, so I don't think that requires any more explanation. I'm just like generally not a big city person. Like, I grew up in the suburbs, I lived in Boston for a while and I really liked it there, but it just seems a little bit more chill than New York. Like, all I can think of when I think of New York is like that hustle and bustle, endless bumper to bumper traffic stereotype, and it's just not for me. So recently I was talking to my boyfriend about how much I hate New York and how I would never want to go back, and he took that as a challenge to make me like New York. So he's gone there quite a few times and every time he has a great time, and he was saying all the same things that everyone says when I tell them I hate New York, that it's all about the neighborhood you go to and you just gotta avoid certain areas and like don't drive or whatever. Like, everyone has their New York advice and everyone swears like as long as you follow their advice you'll have a great time. I just prefer to go to a place where I'm going to have a good time no matter what and not where I have to like game the system to have a good time. But I figured if you want to convince me that I will like New York, challenge accepted. Well, it's your challenge, I'm just going along for the ride. So my boyfriend's completely convinced that he's going to get me to love New York. So we plan a trip there, and as we're planning it, he asked me to find an Airbnb. And this is where it all started. So I look around on Airbnb and I found a few good places, and it was just like pandemonium. Everything was crazy, and it just kind of fed into what I don't like about New York. It's like every time I went to go book an Airbnb, it was sold out. I found some that were really good deals in Manhattan, but they were all shared bedrooms, which like, no thanks. We're going on a 1-day vacation. We aren't like looking to stay in a hostel or something for a week in a foreign country. Like, I'm not sharing a room with strangers. No, I don't care how much money I'm saving. I'm looking at the map and I see like, here's Manhattan, here's the Airbnb. Looks great. He said Manhattan. There's Manhattan. It must be in Manhattan, right? So we go to New York, we have an excellent time. We go to Screamer's Pizzeria in Brooklyn, which I highly recommend. Honestly, one of the biggest highlights of the trip, some of the best vegan pizza I've ever had in my life, and they had like cannolis and the whole jam, and that's like a big treat for us who don't eat dairy. Started off on the right foot. We found parking really easily near our Airbnb, which also was really impressive. So I was like, yes, New York, pulling through for me. Thank you to my sweet, sweet man for convincing me to come to New York, because I actually really like it so far. So we get out of the car and we start walking to the Airbnb, and it slowly dawns on the both of us that we're not in Manhattan, we're in Harlem. We're right in the middle of Harlem, like right next to the police station, which, as you know, is always the safest area to be in, right? It's not like they put the police station right in the most crime-ridden area of the neighborhood or anything. But my stupid ass just saw Manhattan and saw the little blip on the map and figured all of that must be Manhattan, right? No, it's Harlem. It's literally Harlem. You know, whatever, we're only staying there for a night. We're gonna be like out and about all night. We just need a bed to sleep in, really. And as long as our stuff can be locked in a room and be safe, then like everything's fine, right? What could go wrong? It's a 2-bedroom apartment, but the common area of the apartment is very small, like about the same size as the rest of the bedrooms. So you have like this tiny little kitchenette and then like a screen divider where the host is sleeping on the other side because she's renting out both bedrooms. And there's just right smack dab in the middle, just a big old stripper pole, you know? You never know when you need to get some pole fitness exercise in, right? I try not to like think anything of it, and then we open up our door to the room that we're renting, and it's just abundantly clear that we're in a stripper apartment. This is just a house where like a bunch of European girls come to New York, become strippers, and all live together in this admittedly pretty cute little apartment, but I just felt so bad that my boyfriend's probably expecting like this nice little apartment that we get to ourselves in Manhattan, and what I gave him was a spare bedroom at a stripper apartment in Harlem. We just kind of laugh it off and figure we'll move on with the day, and we lock the room with all of our stuff in the room, so we're feeling like pretty good, feeling pretty fine. We have a whole list of places that we want to check out. So we're hopping around the city going to like each one of these places on the list, and on the way we want to get some food, so we stop at this place called Pine Box Rock Shop, which was so cool. I loved that bar. It was awesome, and they had like a small snacks menu, but they had like empanadas and like pulled pork sandwiches and all this stuff, but it was all vegan, and we were like super excited that we could just grab like snacks there and have that be our dinner and then move on with the night, because everything in New York is open way later than Boston, and we were excited to like not have to leave the bars at midnight. Like, even though it was a Wednesday night, everything was still open until 4, so we were like, sick, let's have a dope time. So we're sitting at this bar, having a great time. This like amazing bar dog comes in. Like, when I say bar dog, this dog hops up on a stool, puts his little paws on the bar like he is just like a regular patron there. The bartender grabs him like a whiskey glass full of water and just like sits it down next to him, and that dog is just like chillin'. Like, he goes there every day. That was probably one of like the biggest highlights of the trip too. Like, between the pizza and the dog, honestly totally worth it. I really enjoyed those details, but then things got a little weird. So at this point it's only like 1:30 in the morning, and this bar that we're at is open until 4. Even on Wednesdays, we checked on the sign outside, everything, it says that they're open until 4. And we had an open tab, but for some reason the bartender just like closed it without asking, and everyone else around was like still drinking and eating and stuff. I don't know, maybe he could sense that we were tourists and we weren't from around there, and they just wanted us out so they could enjoy their like late night New Yorker time. So the way he did it wasn't rude, but it was just a little weird, and I was a little disappointed because I wanted to stay out pretty late, and I would have been totally fine with just hanging out at this one bar for the rest of the night because I was really enjoying the vibes. They had snacks, it was awesome. But like, we get the hint. They want us to leave. They're starting to stack up the chairs out on the patio. We're like, all right, let's get out of here. So we check on our phone for some like cool looking bars nearby that we can walk to. One of the pieces of advice that I got after this trip is to never walk between neighborhoods in New York. Like, you pick one neighborhood, you explore around there, and then if you want to go to a different neighborhood, you jump on a bus or in a taxi and you go there. Not knowing this at the time, and also just wanting to go and get a drink, we decided to go on like a little walk through this industrial area of, I believe it was Brooklyn or Williamsburg that we were in. I forget what neighborhood we were in, but we head over to this bar called Duck Duck. Now, from the online listings that we're seeing, I'm like, this looks really cute. It's just kind of like a low-key bar, kind of a place that I could imagine myself going to in Boston. So like, nothing crazy, but at that point in the night I was like totally fine with everything being chill and just going somewhere comfortable, not having anything crazy happen, having the rest of the night just be totally normal. So we walk over to Duck Duck, and we see some really cool graffiti on the way. We have a fun time taking pictures, saying hi to dogs and stuff. It was overall like a pretty uneventful walk. We get to the bar and we see the bouncer outside, or at least we assume he's the bouncer because he's just this big dude standing next to the front door. And who else is just gonna be alone by themselves in the middle of the night standing next to the front door of a bar? We noticed that this guy has a snake around his neck. Now, not like a huge snake, just like a cute little pet snake you'd get at Petco or something. We're both like feeling pretty good, having a great night. We both love animals, so we're like, yo, snake, what up? We ask the guy if we can say hi to his snake as we show him our IDs, and like, he's just not really looking at our IDs, he's just talking about the snake. So I figure like, oh, we haven't been carded the whole time we've been in New York. I guess we look old now, so that's cool. But the more he talks about the snake, the more that it becomes really evident that this guy is not associated with the bar at all. This is a random drunk man by himself outside of a bar in the middle of the night with a snake. Just a random dude. And this guy's just going off about like how much he loves his snake and how he takes care of him. And he's like, oh yeah, I take care of my chain, so I gotta take care of my snake. And the snake like slithers his way under one of the chains and like lifts its head up so it looks like it's wearing the chain. Like, it was kind of adorable, but we were also like, okay, weirdo, we're gonna go inside now. So we just head on in past Snake Man. We sit down at the bar and the bartender says to us like, I'm really, really sorry about Snake Man. Like, did he harass you or anything? Did he ask you anything weird? Did he say anything weird? And we're just like, no, it's fine. Like, we just said hi to his snake. We thought he was the bouncer. So the bartender grabs us some beers and lets us know that they've called the cops on this snake guy because he had come into the bar already intoxicated with a snake around his neck. You can't just walk into bars with snakes, dudes. Is that a thing? Or is that a point of confusion? Because if anyone's confused about that, if you've got a pet snake out there that you love very much, just like, don't bring them out drinking. It's just not a good look. And at that moment, Snake Man tries to enter the bar again, at which time the bartender and the real bouncer for the bar run outside, push him out, tell him like, you can't be in here, we already told you, yelling at him, like whatever. My boyfriend and I try to just like focus our attention back to our conversation, probably go home afterwards because we both had enough adventure for the day and we had a whole other day ahead of us. So we're just kind of like sitting there and chatting when we hear a scuffle outside. We look over our shoulders and the front of this entire bar is glass. Like, it's just totally glass windows everywhere. And we see them fighting, and as soon as I turn around, I hear this like kind of like slapping, splashing sound, like almost. Looking back and like knowing what the sound was and trying to retell it is like very difficult for me. But imagine like a water balloon, like you throw a water balloon at someone and it makes like that smack sound and then the water flies everywhere. And also I see what I immediately think is like half of a drink or like half of a beer, like that volume of liquid or a little bit more, kind of like splash everywhere all over the bouncer. And now if you think that you know where this is going, you probably don't unless you have a really weird imagination. This is probably not what you think it is. There's this huge like waterfall of liquid coming off of the bouncer's arm, and I'm a little bit confused at first because it dawns on me that Snake Man, or really anyone else out there, didn't have any drinks. Like, obviously they didn't bring beer outside. They would have gotten in like even bigger trouble for that, and there would have been like another altercation about that. And I don't remember anyone having like a water bottle or anything. And then it hits me. Snake Man forcibly removed his snake from his neck by its head and proceeded to whip the bouncer with his snake with so much force that the snake exploded on his arm. So that wasn't like water being thrown, that was a snake's body and internal organs exploding all over this poor guy who is just trying to keep his usually really chill Wednesday night bar under wraps. And then he comes in and confirms my suspicion by saying something about how he's covered in snake guts, and I look and like, yes, he's pretty thoroughly soaked in snake guts. And I'm just sitting there like trying to enjoy the rest of my drink or like figure out what we should do next, because at that point I'm just like really sad and I'm trying to not cry, but I'm telling myself I'm not about to cry about a dead snake at a bar in New York City in the middle of the night, but like, I was heartbroken. I really made a connection with that snake. I really thought that Snake Man loved the snake from what he said. I was devastated. And we decide it's time for us to leave. We're done. Oh my god, I almost forgot one of the weirdest parts of this story. We had a total like glitch in the Matrix experience. So when we were first walking to the Airbnb at the beginning of the story, we saw this guy. He was like a young guy dressed like pretty normal, like probably about our age or maybe a little bit younger, Asian guy with glasses and like a sweatshirt. And he was standing at one of those like public phone charging stations, charging his phone. Sounds really insignificant, but like just keep him in mind. So anyway, so our Uber pulls up to the Airbnb and we go to walk in and notice that the doors are all open and our Airbnb host is running down the street and she's like, no, don't go in there yet. And she's like in her work getup. She's got like clearly like an after work stripper outfit on and a wig. And like no judgment, it's just like again confirming my initial suspicions and I'm like, what is this trip right now? Like what even is New York? As she's running up to us trying to prevent us from going inside, we see 2 police officers walk out and we're just like, really? Like we just watched our snake friend die and now like someone's probably dead inside the apartment. Luckily it wasn't that bad, but we go into this tiny apartment and there's 2 police officers in there and we find out that the other presumably stripper roommate living in the other room got into some kind of very extreme altercation with her boyfriend and there was like threatening and knives involved. Luckily we missed all that because like that would have ruined my night, and just hearing about it secondhand I was just like, okay, I'm going to bed. Bye. The police officers were basically just there to make sure that the guy didn't try to come back into the apartment. And we opened up our bedroom door and this like big mirror that had been on the wall had fallen off and like shattered and there's broken glass everywhere. So like clearly it got a little bit intense. We're about to get ready for bed, but we realized we didn't really check the parking sign outside, so we don't know what time we have to move the car. So we go outside and walk in the middle of the night in the streets of Harlem. Whatever, man, just a lot of rats. They were pretty cute. We find the parking sign, and then on the way back, we walk by that cell phone charging station on the way back from the car. And the same guy is there in the same clothes, standing in the same position that he had been in before. I thought about it, but like, I was like, there's no way it's the same guy. Until we're about a block away, and my boyfriend's like, that was the same guy. Like, he's been like stuck there. Like, he's stuck in the simulation, man. Like, what is happening? And I'm like, what the fuck? What is reality at this point? So anyway, we check the parking sign, we come back, the police are still there, we're tired, we want to take a shower, so we like throw on some towels and walk through the kitchen. We're just like, hey, New York's finest, what up? Here's my ass, gonna go take a shower now. And we go to bed, we wake up the next morning in time for our checkout time and have a very relaxing and uneventful day of taking a nap in the park, getting breakfast sandwiches, and going to an arcade bar before we head back home. And on our way back to the car to pick up our breakfast sandwiches and start our day, which by the way are from this store called Riverdale's, which I extremely recommend. If I have anything to take away from this trip, it's that I had some of the dopest vegan food I've ever had in my entire life, and Riverdale's makes this insane breakfast sandwich. It's so good. And I miss breakfast sandwiches so much. I'm like a big Dunkin' Donuts girl, so I miss my bacon, egg, and cheese on a cinnamon raisin bagel. Like, I miss that sandwich so much, and this like really hit the spot. It was great. Anyway, on the way to the car, we walk by the charging station again, and the same guy is there in the same clothes, in the same position, and he doesn't look distressed at all. He's like in the exact same state that he was in when we saw him like a full 24 hours earlier. He just never moved. And you know what, thinking about it, between like charging station man and snake man, I don't know if any of this actually happened. Like, I honestly feel like we somehow both had the same fever dream, and that was our trip to New York. Like, wait. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to my next trip to New York. Learned a lot from this one. Probably gonna give it like about a year or so before I ever try it again, because I am good for now. But boy, was it an adventure. Now, I feel like everyone who's not from New York has these like crazy New York stories every time they go. So if you guys have any crazy New York stories from visiting that city, let me know in the comments down below, because I want to know if this is just like a me thing or if this happens to other people. Like every time you go to New York, it's just the weirdest shit ever. But yeah, if you like these kind of more like casual, sitting down, hanging out, telling a story kind of videos, let me know, because I kind of really like them and they're fun and sometimes weird things happen and I need someone to tell. So thank you for listening.